Hey, what's going on, guys? Bot Mentality here. And we do not have a single boring day in the markets this week. We've had another day of the VIX closing up here near 32 with a huge spike up into the close as soon as you thought the bulls were finally reclaiming some ground. We got the ES rolling from 4450 essentially, sub 4300, bounced back halfway and then crashed during the overnight session. And we're still seeing that unfold now. So I'm just going to jump into this with you and talk a little bit about what's going on. So the perspective on the markets, from a technical perspective, we're going to zoom out here just to the daily. We're going to look at this. Look at this massive lower wick here as we soak the lows. Extremely bullish, huge bull volume after a multi-day downside just tank of the markets, right? We soaked it. Okay, we had a single red day, moved up, broke the highs of the Monday's candle on the 24th. And we soaked it, and then look where we're at now, guys. We pushed above that 4,400, stuffed. We had FOMC today. Currently is an inside bar right here. We're just kind of hanging out. However, we rejected that 4450-ish supply zone, and we have the potential to move back towards lows right here. So when you look on the daily and you see such a bullish soak of supply, and then a break over the prior supply here, and then we stuffed that, and now we're selling back towards the lows that prior day's candle. It's a pretty sketchy sign. It's a sign that there's potential to move back towards the lows. Regardless of the soak here on the bulls, we still couldn't hold over that 4,400, over that prior resistance level on the high of this daily candle, which just happened to be 44.27. Let's say 44.30, which, by the way, guys, is essentially exactly where the 200-day moving average is right now that everybody's been talking about. And now we're seeing some weakness here after hours post FOMC. We had two earnings announcements that are interesting. I'll get back to the VIX here in a second. Microsoft had earnings, soaked it, ripped back up. Tesla also did temporarily the same thing here. We got killed after hours, moved back to the upside. Now we're selling a little bit lower along with the ES. So far we've had two. I think Intel reported today as well. Are they selling? Yeah, and they got the earnings announcement, popped up, moved back to the upside, and they're selling it off as well too. So currently we have, that's three beta company, large caps that have reported earnings, and so far are seeing a initial bullish response, but we're still rolling over and selling lower. Given Microsoft is the strongest, it's nothing crazy, but it's you need to keep that in mind with the current sentiment. So the bottom line, what that turns out on the ES, if we don't hold this 4,300 and this 44.12 or 42.12, right, the prior low here, this, let's say 4,300, the prior low here, and we start breaking that 4,300, chances are we're going to break that 4,200. We're going to break that 42.12 and we're going to roll lower because we rejected this 4,400 supply 3 times post FOMC. We've had two earnings from beta stocks that are so far haven't done it. And Microsoft's kind of an exception, I'll be honest with you, because it came all the way down here and soaked it, but haven't blown away, they beat their numbers and still sold off. And so it's kind of a bit of a sketchy situation. And just taking a quick glance at the VIX here, you'll see, let me zoom out to 180 day. We're still over 20, which is huge. We reclaimed 30 today, closed over 30. Within proximity to the highs, it's possible for us to gap up towards that 35 if the ES does confirm below 4,300 tonight. And then we could see the downside show continuing, right? The next macro demand here on the ES is actually going to reside 4250-ish, and then the 4212 is the reference. Below that, I mean, what do you want to call it? 4,000, 4,100, right? 4080. Let's just say around 4,100 is the next macro demand, but it gets a lot shakier from here just because of the fact that we had this massive soak and we're giving up the lows. That could potentially port towards a more macro downside move, or who knows, maybe we hold this, these inside channels per se today, and then we reclaim 4,400 end of week, and then we can see the bull side show continue in the short term. It really just depends on what happens during tonight's session, if we can hold that 42.12, where the VIX ends up. And if you take a look at beta names, we still got more left to report, okay? Let's take a look at it. Look, Microsoft rejected the 310. We're moving back down. Let's look at Tesla in a similar position as Microsoft. We saw the stuff at 975. We're moving back closer to the lows. Let's look at Apple, huge one that's coming up. Same thing, sold off. We're moving back towards the middle of the channel. AMD, Same thing. It didn't get quite as high as the others in comparison. Back here towards the lows, they have potential for the downside channel. It all depends on what the ES does here soon, guys. It's not a good spot to be in if you're a bull, especially if you bought the lows. You need to either have a break-even stop, right? Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. Over 4,400, the scenario looks a lot better for the bulls. But as it sits right now, given we're post FOMC, I don't know. I'd be kind of sketched out right now. But yeah, that's what we got. I'm going to go into a more detailed analysis tomorrow morning in the chat room, which, by the way, if you're interested in joining, there is information for that in the description box below. Or if you're interested in joining my mentorship program, there's information for that on my Patreon. And just, guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and continue to stay focused, develop that bot mentality, which is that trading mentality where you learn to eliminate your emotions so you can trade like a machine, guys. I'm out of here. Deuces.